Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. What a crazy day for markets. I mean, Trump, you gotta give it to the guy. He knows how to stir up markets like nobody's business, okay? Earlier in the day today, he was apparently close to firing Powell, but I think he's seen how the markets reacted and backed down. I'll explain that. We'll go over all of the news you need to know here in this video, including PPI that came in better than expected, that really sent markets into a risk-on trading environment today, even again after Trump's Powell debacle early in the morning. We kind of went back to that risk-on trade as well. We do have some data coming out tomorrow and a couple of other things we do need to talk about. So hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Check out that link down below in the description of this video for the trading community. This is the most unique service ever because what we are doing is something that nobody else is doing. And that is we go out and find opportunities in small companies. We know of the opportunity in large companies. AMD, Nvidia, Tesla, Netflix, Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. We know about this. But what about the billion-dollar company or the $500 million company? People just forget about those stocks until they go up a lot, until they become successful companies. What we are doing is going out, putting in the work, finding the value in these smaller companies. Specific focuses on AI, on energy, on robotics, on the trends of the next decade. The goal is by buying these stocks, you can get outsized returns like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x kind of returns, like life-changing amounts of money, while also lowering the risk profile. Instead of just investing in random companies that are small caps, not doing the work, and investing in bad ones at the same time, you can filter out and find the good ones. You should have a lower risk profile while being somewhat diversified and offering that upside potential as well. So that in a nutshell is what we are doing. If you are looking for outsized returns as well, check out that link down below in the description of this video. I will caution you because if you're looking for just, 7% returns and companies we all know about, that's probably not for you. But if you're looking for outsized returns to put in the work and get involved in that community, check it out, link down below in the description of this video. I do have my Tesla positions posted. I share my positions when I make new trades. I screenshot things, all of that, as you would expect to see. So link down below in the description of this video, but back to the episode. Okay, now it was reported at about 11 o'clock in the morning today via White House officials that Trump is likely to fire Powell soon. This caused interest rates, like 10-year treasury yields, to skyrocket. This caused the Russell, S&P, NASDAQ, all of your indexes to sell off at the same time. This headline came out. It says Trump spoke to lawmakers on Tuesday about whether to oust Powell. Officials cautious that there is no exact timeline for the decision on the Fed chair. A White House official has said that Trump will fire Powell likely very soon. And citing two people that are familiar lawmakers, Republican lawmakers, Trump actually waived a copy of the draft firing letter of Powell in front of these Republican lawmakers. So there was quite a stir that happened around lunchtime today. Deutsche Bank, following this news only about 10 minutes later, says if Trump fires Fed Powell, quote, both the currency and the bond market can collapse. Again, according to Deutsche Bank. Another headline came out that says Trump pulled some Republican lawmakers on firing Powell and got a positive response about it. Now, within like 20 minutes of that headline coming out, the VIX spiked to 8%. The Russell sold off over 1%. I mean, like it was turning into a bit of a bloodbath out there. Trump started a press conference. It was almost like Trump was testing the waters to how the markets would respond to him firing Powell. Okay, like if the market acted poorly like it did today, then Powell's job is safe. He doesn't want to break the market. Trump doesn't, at least. Whereas if the markets had reacted positively, Powell would probably be fired right now. But Trump says on Powell, quote, he's too late. Trump says he is open to the idea of firing Powell. Trump, when asked if he will fire Powell, says he has been too late. Trump says Powell does a terrible job. We fight through it. And the headline that turned everything around was this: Trump on Powell, not planning on doing anything. And he was asked if he will fire Powell. Trump says not planning on it. Trump says that change will be in the next 8 months. And Trump says, I will pick someone doing a great job. Trump says that White House senior advisor Hassett is someone we'd consider for Fed chair. That's kind of what seems like the runner-up at this point. Him or Besson, but Besson is already at the Treasury doing what Trump would say a great job, which I actually do have a lot of respect for Scott Besson. I think he is a very smart individual and knows probably the best possible person for the Treasury role. And Trump says that Powell is a knucklehead. So it really did seem like today it was all about testing the waters to see how the markets would respond. The markets responded very negatively quickly, and Trump immediately came out and walked back some of the headlines that were coming out. It was a test the waters kind of thing, because once you fire someone like Powell, you can't really easily fix that, right? You kind of just got to sit with the consequences, whatever happens. And the last thing Trump wants right now is bond yields to go up, right? For borrowing costs to become even more expensive and to put more pressure on the economy and more pressure on markets. Now, traders are pricing in now more than a 50% chance of a September Fed rate cut. Canada's Prime Minister Carney says Canada has become too dependent on the U.S., must diversify trade relationships and rely more on Canadian steel for Canadian projects. Canada will charge an extra 25% tariff on steel imports from all countries, excluding the U.S., containing steel melted and poured in China. So, good that they excluded the U.S. in this. It did seem like the markets reacted positively on this headline. Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon says, I think there's a reasonable chance we get a cut or two, but he's not certain. Mexico's President Sheinbaum says, I spoke with Canada's Carney about Trump letters. Canada and Mexico agree USMCA pact must be respected. The Brazilian government sent a letter about tariffs to U.S. officials on July 15th, so that was yesterday. White House senior advisor Hassett says the Fed needs to get back on the curve on where rates should be. Hassett says the Fed has been very, very slow. Inflation data has been fine. U.S. Trade Representative Greer says we have to be clear-eyed about the challenge before us in reindustrializing the U.S. Greer says, I want to reverse the trend of the U.S. trade deficit, keep it decreasing over time. He says that Trump's expanded tariff program is bearing fruit in terms of industrial investment in the U.S. And Greer says that China's cumulative tariff rate is 55%. And Greer says the U.S. is losing advanced manufacturing along with basic manufacturing. And Canada is weighing limiting lumber exports to solve the U.S. trade dispute. We did also get economic data today, including PPI month over month. Headline PPI month over month came in at 0%. The expectation was 0.2%, and last month came in at 0.3%. That was revised up from 0.1%. Now, core PPI month over month came in at 0%. The estimate was 0.2%, and last month was revised up from 0.1% to 0.4%. So pretty good numbers overall. Core PPI year over year came in at 2.6%. Last month was 3.2%. Revised up from 3%, and the forecast was 2.7%. So pretty much across the board, better than expected numbers, but some big revisions for last month, which is interesting. Industrial production month over month came in at 0.3%. Last month was 0%. Revised up from negative 0.2%. The estimate was 0.1%. So that was better than expected. Capacity utilization came in at 77.6%, better than the forecasted 77.4%. Industrial production year over year came at 0.7%. The forecast was 1.5%. Manufacturing production at 0.1%. The estimate was 0%. And manufacturing production year over year came in at 0.8%. The estimate was 1.1%. So pretty much across the board, it was better than expected economic data today. Now, chip gear leader ASML beats Q2 targets but gives a cautious outlook. The Dutch company earned the equivalent of $6.85 a share on sales of $8.94 billion in the June quarter. Analysts polled by FactSet had expected ASML to earn $6.10 on sales of $8.77 billion. So they beat across the board, but they say, quote, "Looking at 2026, we see that our AI customers' fundamentals remain strong," Chief Executive Christophe Fouquet said in a statement. At the same time, we continue to see increasing uncertainty driven by macroeconomic and geopolitical developments. Therefore, while we still prepare for growth in 2026, we cannot confirm it at this stage. ASML did not confirm a view for growth in calendar 2026, and that could impact sentiment near term, said TD Cohen. So they basically gave a light guidance, but smashed the last quarter estimates. So the stock was down about 9% today, and that kind of dragged down other AI stocks because ASML is seen as like tier one in the AI space. Then you have like TSMC, then you have NVIDIA, then you have like NVIDIA's customers, like Tesla, Meta, right? Oh, data centers, right? And then I guess tier 5 would be like applications for AI. So ASML is at the top of the chain in terms of AI. Doesn't mean that NVIDIA is going to have bad numbers. It doesn't mean that TSMC is going to have bad numbers. In fact, kind of supports with their earnings beat that those companies are going to have good numbers. Trump says the Genius Act will be passed tomorrow, and he spoke to all the holdouts today. The U.S. is set to ban Chinese technology in submarine cables. Speaker Johnson on Powell says, "Look, I do believe new leadership would be helpful at the Fed." And Warren says that Trump's interest in Fed building renovations is a clear pretext to fire Powell. Tillis says if the Fed chair is fired, you're going to see a pretty immediate response, and we've got to avoid that. U.S. Senate Republican Banking Committee member Tillis says firing a Fed chair over an economic decision would undermine the U.S.'s credibility. And apparently lawmakers' dinner with Powell is canceled. Trump says there is well over 150 countries to get a notice of payment. So just those letters sent out on trade. Trump says we have pretty good deals to announce. And Trump says another deal with India is coming up. Maybe. And Trump says reports on firing Powell aren't true. Now, here on the day today, you can see the Russell 2000 is bouncing back the most, likely because it was the strongest index before the Powell news came out, right? The Russell was doing very well because of those lower than expected PPI numbers. NASDAQ up 0.06%. I think it's kind of a mean reversion to what we seen yesterday. Yesterday, it was a lot of the Russell stocks selling off and AI stocks going parabolic, okay? Today, it's a flip-flop of that. Russell stocks are doing better, NASDAQ underperforming. S&P is up 0.13%. The Dow is up 0.25%. So the Dow doing a little bit better today as well. The VIX is up 0.69%. At one point today, it was up over 8%. So yeah, things have definitely cooled down quite a bit, as it looks like Powell is not going to be fired, at least anytime soon, although there's still is a chance that could happen. Now, we also have earnings today in after hours from United, Alcoa, Kinder Morgan, couple of banks as well. Tomorrow morning, TSMC, PepsiCo, Cintas, US Bank Corp, Texas Capital Bank, Abbott, Travelers, Fifth Third Bank, and Novartis that will report. Thursday and after hours, Netflix, Interactive Brokers, Lockheed Martin, Bank of Ozark, First National Bank, Western Alliance Bank Corporation, and some others. And then Friday even, Huntington, 3M, Regions, Truist, SLB, American Express, Charles Schwab, Ally, Comerica, and Autoliv. We also have some economic data coming out tomorrow with retail sales month over month, and that's going to be really important, as well as a lot of secondary data, but we'll talk about that more in the next video. The CNN Fear and Greed Index today has fallen out of extreme greed. It's now at 73 on the high side of greed. Market momentum is neutral, stock price strength, extreme greed, stock price breadth, extreme greed, put and call options, extreme greed. Market volatility is neutral, safe haven demand, extreme greed, and junk bond demand in extreme greed as well. The AI Investor Sentiment Survey that came out on Thursday shows 41.4% of investors that are bullish, 23% that are neutral, and 35.6% that are bearish. I imagine in the report coming out tomorrow, because we'll get a new one, you're going to get even more bears. That's what you want to see if you're a bull. You want to see as many people bearish as possible, because that means there's more, there's more people that could switch over to being positive and start buying stocks again. Okay. The Fed Rate Monitor tool is pricing in a 4.3% chance of a Fed cut July 30th. That is up from 2.1% yesterday. So the odds of a cut in July doubled, and markets are favoring a September 17th Fed rate cut. 55.9% chance of a cut September 17th, 41.7% chance of a continued pause, and a 2.4% chance of a cut in September or July and in September. So 50 basis points worth of cuts over the next two Fed meetings. You also have the percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average that is down quite a bit from some of the highs that we hit. Some of the highs we hit were around 80. You're now down to 64.38%. So 64.38% of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average is pretty much a normal range. You're not on the high side anymore. You're kind of just in a normal market range. So let me know your thoughts on all of this down below in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your day. Check out that link down below in the description of this video for the trading community if you guys would like to join that. I recommend that you guys do. Obviously, nothing's a financial recommendation. Do what you guys want, trade what you want, do what you want, verify all due diligence that is posted. But we offer a very unique service that nobody else is doing, mostly because it's a lot of work, right? I spend hours every day just like, it's almost like frying my brain, just going through all of these companies, finding the crux in these companies. No matter what it is, when I identify an opportunity, I like to make sure I'm not missing something. And it's a lot of work. It is a ton of work. Like, I would not recommend that anyone does this, in their free time, literally all of their free time. But if you want those outsized returns, if you're willing to put in that work, if you're maybe you don't have time to put in that work and you just want to see what the good stocks are, check out that link again down below in the description of this video. And shout out to all of you guys that are already in that trading community that are just incredibly smart individuals. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Nonetheless, I will see you in the next one.